Hey community, in today's episode, Grammy-nominated artist DOE joins the director of Loop Gospel, Otto Price, to talk about her album Clarity, her favorite part about worship leading, social media, and so much more. You can get the master tracks for all of her songs on loopcommunity.com, so be sure to check those out and enjoy the interview.
Hey guys, I'm so excited today to have another conversation with friends with an amazing artist, an amazing friend, but somebody I've known about. I'll share some of this with her later, but I've known about this artist for some time now, and I'm so excited to finally be able to sit down and have a good conversation with her. So I'd like to welcome to this conversation, DOE. How are you doing?
Woo! I'm here. I'm out here. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. First of all, I love your background. I love the it's got that winter vibe going.
Yeah.
Yes. Because the weather outside is frightful, but inside it's so delightful.
It's so delightful.
Okay, so
I've got heaters turned on in this house.
That's awesome. I love that. I grew up in Massachusetts, so I'm used to I love the fireplace and the roar of fire. So just even if I live in Nashville now, so even if we don't get weather like that, just the idea of a fireplace just makes you feel cozy and feels like home.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Awesome. Well, I alluded to this before. I was, some people know I was at a record label, and I had a showcase that I was called to go to, and it was to see a family band. And the guy who called me was a Benward, and they. So, I don't know if you know any of the Benward.
No, I'm kidding. I know them. Jeffrey Benward was our manager, and it was at the Rutledge, right?
Yeah, definitely at the Rutledge.
It was at the Rutledge, and that was our first showcase.
I think the Rutledge now is a barbecue place.
Really?
It might be. It's like Nashville. I'm sure it's either that or Bridesmaid.
Okay.
Some type of place. It's something. It's Nashville. So no, but what I loved about that time was everybody was kids, but it was the family. But I just remember you stepped out and did a song. I thought, oh my gosh, this is incredible. And what I appreciate about Jeffrey, he actually, a lot of people don't know this, like I started, really my career kind of took off playing with DC Talk, and that was my thing. But Jeffrey discovered them. And so, to see that there's that connection with you, and just, I thought, man, how it's all coming full circle. So.
It's pretty crazy. That is crazy. I think that I forgot he discovered DC Talk.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big badge to wear, honestly. That's really awesome.
Yeah, if I hear that he discovered Bieber, I'll be like, mic drop.
That's the EGOT, right?
That's the EGOT. Well, he definitely got the EGOT with getting DOE. First of all, multiple Dove Award winner, Grammy nominee. Let me just say, as a kid growing up, the idea of, being around a Grammy was one of those things, definitely a bucket list. So you're in there's billions of people on this planet. There's only a few dozen people that get that honor. So congratulations.
Wow, thank you.
So that's really amazing. So let's just start from the beginning. So, family was, obviously you guys were a family doing the family thing. And so were you always wanting to be in music, or was it just, you had no choice?
I always wanted to sing. I didn't really understand the whole industry thing until later on in life.
Who of us do? Who was really the industry thing?
Yeah, we just love singing. We love music. And so this journey, being an individual artist, a solo artist, has been a learning curve for me, because when we were traveling with family, we were just hopping on buses and hopping on stages and hopping off the stage and going to eat. Mom and Dad really had a lot of their hands in the industry stuff with Jeff. And so, but in Louisiana, Forever Jones was birthed, and we started going on the road and singing. And Jeff came to Shreveport, and he was kind of rebuilding his life. And we just kind of went like this. Our heart just went like this. And he became Uncle Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, first of all, I love that he saw that family dynamic. And you know this too. His grandson, Luke, and my son Otto were like besties growing up. In
Oh,
fact,
wow.
his mom, which would be Jeff's daughter-in-law,
Hmm.
Kendra, was getting my son OP3 into acting, and I think he sees that. He saw that there was not only just the family dynamic, but that, being that nurture. And so I'm sure he saw some things in you guys and saw something in you in particular that, wanted to kind of get on the straight and narrow, because to make sure that you had the opportunity to really get started off right. So even in that, who were the artists that influenced you growing up?
Gosh, obviously artists like India.Arie, Christina Aguilera, Mariah Carey, Christian artists like Crystal Lewis, Out of Eden, Kim Burrell, Kiera Sheard, the Clark sisters, Karen Clark Sheard, Dietrich Haddon, everybody who's anybody really, just like that we could get our hands on. And we weren't allowed to listen to secular music. So all of those artists that I mentioned in mainstream, we saw on Oprah or heard on the bus or got to see when we went to our cousin's house. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You weren't allowed to do it.
Yeah, those people. Mary for sure.
Okay. So did you play instruments? Did you start off singing more? Was that, I always say this too. A lot of times instrumentalists will say, are you a musician? I'm like, well, vocals are a musical instrument too. But I would say if you're playing an instrument, and even vocals are an instrument, but what was your first instrument? Was it voice? Was it playing guitar, or what was it?
I think it was keys, actually. It was piano.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm trying to think. We came out singing. Mama put us in the choir at 2 years old.
Right.
But the first instrument I picked up was a piano, and that was my first real passion. And then around 13, 12, I picked up guitar because my sister was playing guitar. And yeah, but singing is just like, my vocal cords are another limb, on my body. And I don't know what I would do if I didn't have that outlet of expression.
Yeah, because you're singing just an extension of you. So as a keyboardist or guitar player, when you're writing songs, what's kind of your go-to? Do you typically go to keys or guitar? What's your first?
It's both. It's either or, and sometimes
At the same time?
Same time. No. It just kind of depends on what I'm feeling and what I want to hear, what my soul wants to hear. And you feel something different when you play guitar because the chords and the structures of those chords are different. On keys, you can structure a chord however you want, but the sound is still, it's just different. And so it depends really on what I'm piano is easier to play because I just go sit down. Guitar, I got to pick it up and, tune in. Mm-hmm. So oftentimes though, I'll write a song on the keys and then play it on a guitar, and it'll pick up a different personality, and you're like, oh, I didn't know you were this. But yeah.
So it sounds like you may have an energy that you're trying to get with the song, and then the weapon of choice kind of helps to kind of cement that, or at least emphasize the energy you're going for.
Yeah, it's more, I would say it's like I'll be inspired by an idea or a thought or a revelation. And whatever instrument I feel would help me, get that, release that is the one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And even, I know it feels like we're dipping into songwriting, but listen to your record, which is great.
Thank you.
I'm not just saying that I love that it's a record that's about life. It's not, I love that even you saying, I was told, we all grew up like that. And I think may have done the same thing to my kids, but only listen to Christian music. But after a while, it's like, man, you listen to Christian music, worship music, you listen to all these things and they make you who you are. And I love that you create a record that is if you spend a week with Doe, this is the things that she's probably going to talk about over coffee, dinner,
Yeah.
late night. I love that. And so clarity. So even right, what do you feel like that was that unique signature and things? What do you feel like yours is and maybe was kind of manifest in this record?
I feel like I just write about what I'm inspired by, what I'm feeling, what is breaking my heart at the moment, what is keeping me alive at the moment. I'll hear a random phrase and it will turn into a melody in my mind. I'll be in conversations with somebody and they'll ask me a question, and I'll sing the answer back to them. And so I just find I find inspiration in life. And during the time of the album coming together, there were so many layers that God was removing from me and uprooting, and things that I didn't know, that areas of brokenness that I didn't know existed in my heart. And it was a few years of just healing. And so I wrote from that place, from this real and honest place. Mm-hmm. And, but it took me a minute to get there because I didn't know I was allowed to write from that place. And then I realized, I think I'm supposed to write from this place. And, so I just, you just put those songs on the album, and you realize there's been an underlying theme in my life. And I would not have noticed that had I not put it all into an art project. Now I look at my album and I'm like, this is what God did in my life throughout those past years. So that's kind of my theme for the last album. And then for the next one, it'll be something different. I know that's scary because people are like, you find a formula and you stick to it. But all I can do is tell the truth in song and hope that it really touches somebody. And they say, oh man, I can really relate with that.
Well, you said that you feel like you couldn't write or weren't allowed to write, or what was that? What weren't you allowed to that you feel like you actually were able to do on this project?
Yeah. So that moment came for me on I Try. And if you listen to I Try and you listen to the words, you're like, oh, okay. There were things that I didn't know I was allowed to say about how I felt. I'm a pastor's kid, so I grew up in church, and there was so much pressure to be perfect, and there was so much pressure to choose honor when maybe that someone needed to be called onto the carpet, if that makes sense. So for me, I was like, so I kept sending these songs to the label, like, oh yeah, I can write songs. They're going to love this stuff. So I send songs and they're like, these are pretty, but there's a lot of pretty songs out there. And we really want something that's true to you. And I remember my brother Judah being a part of just helping me go back to the well that I didn't know was dry and dig. And I broke down one day realizing I'm not as good of a writer as I thought I was. And I'm really going to have to work for this. And I Try was when I struck water. I wrote I Try with my hands shaking because I knew that everyone who was a part of my life for the last 16 years, they were going to hear themselves in my journey, and not in a disrespectful way, but in an honest way. So that's what it was for me.
How was the response?
Great. No one was offended. Yeah, everybody, honestly, I feel like my world was waiting on me to be honest, and then it's I'm an adult, I think sometimes as a pastor's kid, you learn to sit in the background and wait till you're called to the front and speak when you're spoken to. And you learn all of these rules, and not everybody puts that on you. You just kind of feel that pressure sometimes. And so there was some adulting that I had to learn how to do as an adult when it came to communicating, and when it came to even communicating my hurts and the things that I was forgiving for. And I was so afraid of confrontation. And I Try was probably the beginning of a process of healing for me. It was the beginning of a breakthrough moment.
Well, you and I talked about this before we started this conversation, and First of all, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I think that authenticity is something that can be rare in music and songwriters, but that's what we do as songwriters. We're kind of, I love what you said. If you see somebody ask you a question, you write a musical answer to it. I think that's what songwriters do.
That's good.
Some of the best songs were scribes. We're writing down life and in a 3.5-minute song, and we're relating to humanity. Everybody, so we're trying to relate and pull things out of us that will hopefully relate to somebody else. And there's an artist we all know, Amy Grant. One of the things that I appreciate about her, I see a lot in you, is your authenticity. Is she's been around for so long because she's just authentically who she is, and I see a lot of that in you. And I think you hit the nail on the head. That's when those gems start to really come to fruition, because you're like, I'm being honest. I'm not having to do what I was been told. I feel, or the expectation. I'm sure your parents didn't say that to you, but because your parents are pastors, you feel like, I've got to be perfect. I've got to do all the right things. I've got to, and you just want to be a kid. You just want to be a human. You don't want to feel like you're a piece in a museum.
Right. And sometimes when people say things to you and you feel like you have to have a reply, sometimes you just want your answer to be so. Like, I saw you shrug your shoulders and I thought that was like something I felt like I always had to have an answer, and I'm finding freedom in being like, I'm going to speak on the things that move me, that I understand, and that I feel like I can actually offer an articulate answer for, the things I'm responsible for in life, the things I can control. Yeah. And that sets you free as a songwriter too.
Yeah. I think as a human, I think one of the things that's helped me is going through books, especially in the Old Testament. It sounds crazy, but reading Job, when you really read Job, it ends. If it was a movie, it'd be the worst movie ever.
Really?
You think about it, like his friends say, you did this wrong. He goes, I want to talk to God. And then this young guy goes, well, all y'all are wrong. And then God shows up and says, where were you at when I created this? And then things come back, but you never really get answers on why he went through all that. Right.
Yes.
And so we live in this constant perpetual state of, we got to have the answer. I got to know if and I grew up in churches, like, if things went wrong, what sin is in your life? And
what you doing?
What did you do? Like, I don't, I love all this stuff that makes you who you are. Like, even worship leading, like what's that been like? Because one of your passions is worship leading. Like, I'm sure you're in different spaces. What drives you in a worship setting? Where do you like to worship? What settings drive you?
My favorite place, and I go everywhere, and I will always, wherever the Lord sends me, but my favorite places are when I'm up there, I have the microphone and I'm leading the moment, but everybody is out there saying, oh yeah, we're going with you. Like, you're not going to have to work. You're not going to have to say much to us, because we're all on the same page. And that's always so easy, because I feel like God can do so much with a yes. And there's so much surrender in those moments that equates to so much breakthrough. And I'm not saying that God can't in hard spaces, but when everyone's heart is saying yes, that makes me feel like I don't ever have to fight the temptation to get up there and tap dance. If I could just be real, right? There's no temptation to tap dance when everybody's on the same page. And those are my favorite spaces.
Like, when you're leading in a multicultural space, like, because you're at a Black church or predominantly white church, like, what do you feel like is the thing that
what's so crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that question, because I don't think I've ever allowed myself to think that way, right? Like, oh, I'm the only Black person here. Oh, I'm in an all Black space. We never think that way. We just go, right? But if I'm honest, those multicultural spaces, because they've already broken through the barrier of preference and chosen the sound of heaven, whatever that is, they are way, way easier and way more fun. I hope I don't get uninvited. But no, I want that out there. It's the truth. You know, they've broken through that barrier of, well, this is the preference that I like to worship. And it's like, I prefer the sound of heaven and whatever needs to be sung in that moment, what makes sense message wise. So
I think you'll actually get more because people, it's interesting. I mean, the world is set up. There's no delineation anymore with music. It's, you know, it's because we're Nashville. You see all these, the newest country artists are Black kids that, you know.
That's so true.
It's just like, so music, the world is already moving forward. And, you know, we as a church need to make sure we don't keep stereotypes as old guard. We have to figure out where's the world moving. Like you said, the sound of heaven.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, for sure.
I got just two more questions for you. One, what, you know, you've been obviously in the industry. What would this doe say to a younger doe about, hey, as you come into this, you know, the power or the pain of social media or fame? How's that affected you?
I have not been exposed to the power of pain yet because I'm not that huge yet. I do have people that say things and I'm practicing right now. But the fact that social media is my job, and then I'm also trying to find balance so that I can be present in my life when I'm with people. I would have told myself to position social media to live in a workspace only from the jump, to use social media and not be used by social media, if that makes sense. I would have positioned myself better for my introduction to social media because I'm that girl. And like I said, I'm just going to be real. I'm that girl who realizes, oh my gosh, okay, I'm addicted right now. So I'm going to delete the app for a few days and then I'll bring it back when I feel, you know, like I'm in a good place. And I don't know if it would have been that way still, but I think I would have had better boundaries and just been more prepared for what the demand of social media.
And this kind of segues into my last question. How do you, it sounds like you said, how do you keep centered and focused on God when everything around you is pulling at you and all these demands? What practices do you put in place to do that?
Yeah, my practice is to stay in the fight because in our lives, like, I'm not doing the same thing every day. Routine is like, what? You know? So I stay in the fight to pursue God in every differently shaped day. And I don't I stopped allowing the enemy to make me feel insecure, so insecure that I don't enjoy the ministry of reconciliation. And if I could, because I feel like this is going to set somebody free because it set me free. The faster you can respond by running to the feet of Jesus, no matter what you feel like you failed at, the sooner you can get away from the snowball effect where you're like, oh, now I have to recenter and now I have to readjust my whole life back to la, 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 la. You know, and a part of that is you feel shame. So you distance yourself, even if you're somebody who preaches against shame and you tell other people to run to Jesus, it's like this natural thing. So you kind of distance yourself and you're like, okay, let me get my life back into a good place and then start, you know, this routine again. And it's like, no, just keep showing up. And when you feel the worst, the moment that you feel the worst, run and enjoy the nearness of God and the ministry of reconciliation, because that irritates the enemy so bad when he realizes that he didn't get so under your skin that it kept you from praying that day or it kept you from, you know what I mean? And that has been like the joy of my life, that God is like, he's waiting for me to respond that way. This is what Jesus died for, so that I could enjoy the ministry of reconciliation. And I'm not saying I'm just out here living however I want to live, but it's just like that weight will get to you and that burden will get to you, and you start to feel unqualified. And that feeling of unqualification, or however I would need to word it, is like, could be so heavy for someone who's going to place to place to place to place and leaning on God to minister to people. And I so value prayer as a part of what I do. I know that I have to be in the secret place. So that's one of the ways the enemy tried to attack me. So for me, it's been like, my knee-jerk reaction is, oh no, I'm still going to show up. Still going to show up. I don't care, how long. It's not about quality or quantity. It's about quality time, with the Lord. And anyway, so that's what I would say.
Del, thank you for your time. Thank you, seriously,
Thank you for having me.
Your honesty, and thank you for your transparency. I'm looking forward to hearing more great things, and congrats on the nominations, and looking forward to what 2023 is going to be for you.
Thank you.
Love you, dear. Have a good one.
Bye.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt. Thanks so much for listening. Hey, let us know what you thought. Write down in the comments, wherever you're listening, watching from, what you thought. Make sure you send us a message. Subscribe to our channel, YouTube, Facebook, and stay tuned for more from Lift Community.